At the same time, the idea of time sharing came up. This is the first concept in computer technology to share the processing power of one computer with multiple users. On October 4th in 1957, during the Cold War, the first unmanned satellite Sputnik 1 was sent into orbit by the Soviet Union. The fear of a missile gap emerged. In order to secure America's lead in technology, the US founded the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency in February 1958. At that time, knowledge was only transferred by people. The DARPA planned a large-scale computer network in order to accelerate knowledge transfer and avoid the doubling up of already existing research. This network would become the ARPANET. Furthermore, 3 other concepts were to be developed which are fundamental for the history of the Internet. The concept of a military network by the RAND Corporation in America. The commercial network of the National Physical Laboratory in England. And the scientific network Cyclades in France. The scientific, military, and commercial approaches of these concepts are the foundations for our modern Internet. Let's begin with the ARPANET, the most familiar of these networks. Its development began in 1966. Universities were generally quite cautious about sharing their computers. Therefore, small computers were put in front of the mainframe. This computer, the Interface Message Processor, took over control of the network activities, while the mainframe was only in charge of the initialization of programs and data files. At the same time, the IMP also served as interface for the mainframe. Since only the IMPs were interconnected in a network, this was also called IMP subnet. For the first connections between the computers, the Network Working Group developed the Network Control Protocol. Later on, the NCP was replaced by the more efficient Transmission Control Protocol. The specific feature of the TCP is the verification of the file transfer. Let's take a short detour to England. Since the NPL network was designed on a commercial basis, a lot of users and file transfer were expected. In order to avoid congestion of the lines, the sent files were divided into smaller packets, which were put together again at the receiver. Packet switching was born. In 1962, American Ferret aircraft discovered middle and long-range missiles in Cuba, which were able to reach the United States. This stoked fear of an atomic conflict. At that time, information systems had a centralized network architecture. To avoid breakdown during an attack, a decentralized network architecture had to be developed, which, in case of loss of a node, would still be operative. Communication still used to work through radio waves. That would have caused problems in case of an atomic attack. The ionosphere would be affected and the long-wave radio waves wouldn't work anymore. Therefore, they had to use direct waves, which, however, don't have a long range. A better solution was the model of a distributed network. Thus, long distances could be covered with a minimum of interference. Another milestone followed with the development of the French network Cyclades. Since Cyclades had a far smaller budget than ARPANET, and thus also fewer nodes, the focus was laid on the communication with other networks. In this way, the term Internet was born. Moreover, Cyclades' concept went further than ARPA's and the MPLs. During communication between sender and receiver, the computers were not to intervene anymore, but simply serve as a transfer node. Cyclades' protocol went through all machines using a physical layer that was implemented into the hardware, providing a direct connection with the receiver, an end-to-end structure. Inspired by the Cyclades network and driven by the incompatibility between the networks, their connection gained in importance everywhere. The phone companies developed the X.25 protocol, which enabled communication through their servers, in exchange for a monthly basic charge, of course. DARPA's transmission control protocol was to connect the computers through gateways. And the International Organization for Standardization designed the OSI reference model. The innovation of OSI was the attempt to standardize the network from its ends and the channel's division into separate layers. Finally, the TCP assimilated the preferences of the OSI reference model and gave way to the TCP/IP protocol, a standard which guaranteed compatibility between networks and finally merged them, creating the Internet. By February the 28th, 1990, the ARPANET hardware was removed, but the Internet was up and running.
Okay, apa ni, it might sound a bit technical, but just to show to you that that is how the history of the internet started, and then perhaps you can do a bit more reading on the history of the internet later. Yeah. So let's take a look at the slides. Okay, can you see my screen? Okay.
Yes, sir, we can see the slides.
Thank you. Right. So from the video that you see just now, that's basically the illustrative version of the whole timeline on how the internet started. Don't worry too much about the technical terms. Basically, the idea is that the whole thing started from a military project in the United States, and from there it expand from one network to another. So slowly it becomes bigger and bigger. So this is where we come from. On what is the internet? It's basically a network of networks. Yeah, it's an inter-network. Yeah, a set of communication links and communication rules. Yeah? Or it is called in the IT language as protocols, which these rules, these protocols allows computers as well as networks to exchange information with one another. So the one that we see in front of us is highly sophisticated network, although some of us may argue slow lah apa kan, but the idea is that it consists of connecting or connection between many networks that enable us to even connect to the far side of the earth within split seconds. So this is the definition. This is another the first video that you have seen is this one, the first link. And then the second link too, you can watch during your spare time. It's about quite lengthy video, about 20 minutes. Yeah? And then just briefly to give an overview about the history, which has been illustrated in the video just now. Internet, it started as a small military project. Yeah? Started as a small military project because they want to share information. So this is what they call, or it's being developed by US Department of Defense. So the project is known as ARPA. So the ARPA, and then later developed a small network called ARPANET. And then this ARPANET is like the first of the kind. And then they developed a certain kind of protocol, which is the first one was it had an old name which has been upgraded into what we use now to connect to the internet, which is the transmission control protocol or slash internet protocol, IP or TCP/IP. So this is what we use now to connect to the internet. as well as to manage the network. Yeah. So when this TCP/IP, which was said to be it is more efficient than the previous type of connection. So it marks the birth of the internet. Yeah. So a bit of timeline. Okay, not to worry too much about this. Started as part of military project and then slowly expanded into universities, commercial sector, and then they started to add more and more computers to, or as well as networks to connect with each other. And then 1971, there was email was invented, and then you can see the progress from there. And then 1983, the invention of TCP/IP, and then finally somewhere around 1991, then only we have the first web page. And then 1993, the graphical browser. And finally 2004, Facebook was created. And then 2007, mobile web. iPhone introduced mobile web, and so on and so forth. Until now, we have, the most recent is broadband and 5G connections, which is still new. Not many places have that, and but devices like devices like mobile phones have started to pick up. They have incorporated the capability to connect to the 5G. So it's just a matter of time for us to move. But what happens at the moment is that the government is trying as best as it could to migrate everyone into 4G LTE, that's the most katanya the fastest now lah. And then 5G is still in test run phase. Yeah. Certain places like Langkawi, they have tried to make these small districts as a test site, yeah, for 5G, and more places are being deployed to enable 5G. Yeah. Okay, so briefly on that was how the global internet came about. Kalau if you later when you have time, you watch the other video, you can see it's actually the second video was about an interview on the how the internet started and what are some of the issues that the interviewer faced when digging up the issue on how the internet gets us connected. And all those developments are happening in the United States. And when we can also see that the earliest one involved France, dengan another one was England, UK. So from there, it expanded. More and more countries created their network, and it connects with many countries. As far as Malaysia is concerned, in the year 1990, it was because of this project led by MIMOS. MIMOS is a Malaysian Institute of Microelectronic System. MIMOS Berhad still exists now. So it's a company dedicated to do this research on networks and scientific research. So at that time we have this the first ISP, which is known as Jaring, the Joint Advanced Integrated Networking, Jaring. So this was administered by MIMOS. So MIMOS administered Jaring as the first ISP, and Dr. Awang Lah was the person responsible for development of the internet as well as related fields. So it was based on this small project that they developed a network known as RANCOM, Rangkaian Computer, Malaysia. So this RANCOM was it developed as part of the MIMOS project, to kickstart the internet connection in Malaysia at that time. So this guy was coined as the father of the internet lah, kan, during this day. So this Rangkom had linked Malaysia with 4 countries, namely Australia, US, Netherlands, and Korea through direct dial-up connection. You all tahu tak direct dial-up connection ni macam mana? Pernah guna tak?
Tak pernah, tapi pernah dengar.
Pernah dengar? Tak tahu sekarang ada lagi ke tidak lah. But it's the I think kalau TMNet tu dia ada macam satu benda nama you dial 1515. It's basically like dialing a phone. When Windows 10 is too advanced to illustrate this, but basically every time you want to connect to the internet, there is this username and password that you have to enter, and then dia punya macam dial-up number dia is 1515 lah. Saya tak tahu yang tahun 1990 ni whether it's still the same or that is a much less advanced version than that tu saya tak tahu, because 1990 ni saya pun sekolah lagi. The internet is nowhere in schools at that time. So we had to, like, at that time you have options to buy top up, or you can also connect using your bill, your phone bill, you see. So when you have to plug in everything lah, with the modem pun, I think modem you have to buy. Tak ingat rupa modem macam mana dulu, tapi there was 2 kinds yang saya ingat tahun 2000 lah. One is the internal modem. There is also the external kind of modem. So you have to connect everything by cable lah, lebih kurang macam sekarang juga lah. Tapi now we have many options like Wi-Fi and so on kan. So when you dial to say if you want to use your phone bill, phone you dial up through your phone punya connection. So there'll be a really loud noise. Macam mana bunyi dia? Anyone can replicate the sound? Macam itulah bunyi dia kan. So it will take about it depends on your network really. It will take around katalah macam 3 minutes kot paling cepat lah to get connected. It is not always the first try that you will get it. Sometimes the first try, the first dial, the dial-up will fail. So kena try macam tekan 2-3 kali, like 2 or 3 times you try to dial, then only you will get into the so-called internet. Once you assuming the connection is successful, then you will start to be billed. Tapi at that time, if you use just for browsing the websites, the bill, the phone bill can go up to 200 or 300 easily. It's really expensive at that time, and then the speed is speed dia slow je at that time lah. So enough to browse a static website, or maybe to send an email, a basic one lah. So itulah, and that was my experience in the year 2000. Tapi yang before 1990 ni, tak tahu, not many household have computers. So imagine now 2021 as opposed to the year 1995 of that sort, how much we have we have incorporated as well as developed as far as internet connectivity is concerned. And then eventually in 1992, Malaysia's connectivity was enhanced through installation of satellites, and then this enabled direct connection with Stockton in the US. So when this event happens, it allowed Malaysia to be connected with more than 140 nations worldwide, through the internet. Yeah? So from there we are globally connected. So that was still with this Jaring, Jaring as the main ISP. Later, somewhere in 1996, TMNet, the Telekom Malaysia, was launched, and then it gradually became the major internet service provider in Malaysia. Now, it is also known as Unify. As Unify is actually the product of Telekom Malaysia. It's one of the products. So because of this stiff competition, we can see that from there, Telekom Malaysia and then many other ISPs are many telco providers offering ISP services as well, like Digi, Maxis, Celcom, and so on. So more and more ISPs are around. So because of that stiff competition, Jaring went into liquidation in April 2015, and now it's no longer in existence. Okay, so Jaring dah tak ada. So sekarang the major one is Telekom Malaysia is the major ISP in Malaysia. They own most of the assets, the whatever phone lines that you see at the back of your home tu, yang Unify tu. Tu kalau yang Telekom tu TM punya assets lah. In fact, I think majority of the the communication towers they are owned by Telekom, but ISPs like Celcom and all this, they rent this telco towers so that they can run their own service, but generally the assets are all supplied by the GLCs like Telekom lah. Okay, so that's a little bit of history about Malaysia, and then we'll look into some characteristics of the internet. Yeah. Before I move on to the characteristics, any question on this? Ada? Okay. This is just to illustrate the tadi you have seen the video. You have seen how the internet works, and then from this protocol to that protocol, this kind of language kan. So some of you might not understand. It's okay. We try to, although we are lawyers, but we as we learn the cyber law, this language will have to be picked up somehow. So tak apalah, kita slow we try to, for those who are not familiar with this kind of IT language, we try to get to know. Tapi we try to understand this in our own context, in the legal context, to see how the internet works. And then the next thing, when people talk about regulating the internet, then you know, internet is actually built up like this. So how come you can simply you want to do this and that. So but if you already understood the architecture, the characteristics of the internet network ni kan. Although some people may say, this thing is made up by human kan, why can't you change it because human made kan. Tak apalah, we learn what is available now. Right? Okay, for this characteristic of the internet, I made up into simple points so that we are able to appreciate how it works. So this is coming from yang video tadi you tengok tu. We pick up from the TCP/IP just now. So when this new network called TCP/IP has been invented, which is said to be more efficient as far as the data transfer is concerned. Kan? So actually when you use the internet, you are actually transferring data in and out from your computer. So like when I'm doing this lecture, the video that I'm talking in all this, it's being sent out from my computer to the network, and then it reach to your computer. So how this is possible? This is possible through the connection of many TCP/IP networks across wherever you are, as long as this network can find its route to connect us, then this the connection becomes possible lah. So and then just to mention to you some of the special characteristics of this TCP/IP network that made global communication as well as information sharing possible. Number one, the design of this TCP/IP network is made in such a way that it can acquire decentralized control. I think the video just now you have seen dulu before TCP/IP was invented, there was this older network. Dia punya the kind of network is that it is a centralized control. So centralized control meaning all computers must connect in a kind of a straight line kind of connection lah. So A connects to B, C, D, E. So when one tower or when one computer goes down, katalah macam the example just now, it talks about war, isn't it? So you imagine when all these devices being destroyed during war. So if you invent centralized networking, satu kena tembak dengan roket, the whole thing goes down lah, kan? The whole thing, the whole line goes down. So this is bad lah as far as the way forward is concerned. So they have designed this TCP/IP network so much so that it can work on their own, and then if one tower is down, the other tower can still work, or the other network can still function, and it will find a way to connect to the other network. Although one is down, but doesn't matter as long as there are other ways to continue connecting, it will continue to work, and this becomes the basis for internet to work across the world lah. So TCP/IP network operate without the need for instruction from the main computer or the server. Tadi you nampak ada satu rumah besar tu kan. So it doesn't need, it can work on its own without requiring instruction from main computer. So when they do it like this, the internet acquire the ability to do decentralized control. So put it simply, a message could travel from one network to another freely and will not cancel transmission should there be failure to connect to other networks. The message will find another way to reach to its destination within no time. So example katalah macam for Malaysian internet, we have 3 or 4 major underwater cables in which the internet comes into Malaysia, so it becomes a gateway. So Malaysia ni kalau tak salah, tak ingat dekat mana, Melaka ke Johor dengan dekat utara. So there are other certain places ni dedicated for underwater internet cables. So internet comes in, katalah okay, Malaysia, and then Malaysia, for example, there is a network disturbance happening in Singapore, in which the cables from Singapore comes into Malaysia, and then so if anything happens in Singapore, we will not be denied connection. So kalau dekat Singapore tu it disconnects. Malaysia will still have our internet because of the decentralized control feature. So it doesn't matter lah if any parts of the world suddenly disconnects because of a technical problem or maybe the malfunction or anything. The TCP/IP can figure out another way to connect with a certain destination, or katalah macam a user from Malaysia wants to access Google.com, for example. So Google.com is hosted, the server for Google.com is in United States. So you imagine us very far, very far. But anything that happens in between, if when they use this TCP/IP network, it will not disturb the connection or the performance of the connection because it is decentralized. And then second, the design of this TCP/IP network is that it is open, the openness of the network. So the network is designed to be open. It also shaped how the internet works. So because if you see, there are many kinds of computer that we use across the world. Even in Malaysia, I'm using different brands, and then you might be using different kind of computer. Some of you using laptops, some others using smartphones, and many others. So these different kind of devices, sometimes they speak in a different language altogether. So the way how this TCP/IP resolves this problem is that it applies a certain kind of standard or language that can be quickly implemented by all networks without hassle. So tak kisah pakai apa, doesn't matter you use smartphone ke, you use as long as you use a thing that is called computer lah. If you plug in your microwave, setakat ni microwave belum boleh keluar lagi lah gambar what appears on the screen kan. So it speaks on many kinds of language, but this TCP/IP can quickly merge, quickly translate everything so that it can be it can be understood by many computers, and we can be connected quickly. So if as I speak, when this video is being sent across the network, so the language, the computer sends some kind of language to another network or another computer, and they are able to, because of the openness of the network, they are able to understand this this so-called content, and we have no problem to share this content everywhere across the world. So this nature makes the internet easily merged to communicate from one network to another, as well as to arrange communication from one service provider to another. And number three is that TCP/IP network, it sends data in the form of electrical energy of binary digits. So this is the TCP/IP network is that all forms of information are designed in electrical energy of binary digits, allowing internet content to transmit across the globe in no time. So you can see actually there's when I speak, and then whatever that I say is being translated by my webcam, and then it comes into my computer, and as it goes, as it moves out from my home, it sends out this electrical energy in the form of numbers 101010. So it is called as binary digits lah. So yang keluar daripada rumah kita ni is actually binary digits. It's not really the real videos. So 1010, so many 10 lah coming out, and then communicate with the network, and then comes into your house and so on. So in a way, how much data is being transferred does not really matter as far as this concept is concerned. So how far the content needs to travel to reach the desired destination is not an issue, since digital information can move very quick across the globe with no significant degradation in quality. So so that's the concept lah. The concept maknanya doesn't matter how far the electrical energy needs to travel. Once it reaches the destination computer, it will be merged again. Macam tadi tu kan dalam video tu, it will be merged again for the computer to understand, and then it shows to you the content on your screen, which you can basically read and watch exactly in the form that we want lah. So examples of this are like emails, videos. Cuma videos tu kadang-kadang kita tengok kenapa why live streams like sometimes we do a lot of live streams, we don't get exact quality like in the satellite TV, yeah. So remember that we don't talk about satellite connections here lah, tapi those are basically technical issues that I don't want to touch here lah. We have to call some engineers to explain that. So generally, as far as the concept of TCP/IP is concerned, what we intend to send to the receiver, usually the receiver will get exactly the same lah. Simple example is like email. If you send an attachment through email, the other side will get exactly the same attachment as how you sent it. Tapi video apa semua ni, I think there are more complicated reasons why a video, especially live streams, why the quality does not appear exactly as how we download it. If we download something, example, if we download a certain video, and you send it to someone, the person who receives it will get exactly the same file, isn't it? Tapi if live stream, we are not downloading anything. We are just continuously sending and receiving the connection, the signals. So this, I guess, really depends on the network speed and performance and so on. So to make sure that you get the best quality video as possible. Then, so this fact shapes how the internet works nowadays, where a netizen can upload a good quality video into a website, and another netizen can download such video from any parts of the world in the exact same quality, and then it's another a separate issue is just how fast one can download such content. So this highly depend on the local internet infrastructure lah. So if your internet connection, you subscribe to a slow kind of connection, maybe you will get a slow download. Maybe if you subscribe to a much faster connection, then you will get a higher speed download. Again, this depends on the local infrastructure. If, for example, in the particular area, they don't have broadband installed, so maybe that will affect how fast someone can download the content. But still, when you download the content, the download is complete, you will get exactly the same file as how the sender sends it to you. Okay, we can see the advantage just now. The first advantage was the decentralized control, the openness of this TCP/IP network, and it travels in binary digits, so you don't get quality degradation as the data transmits across the globe. But the thing is, with positive points, there also comes some disadvantages to this method of transfer, information transfer, because the network does not recognize a content as what kind of content. So if you send a video, the network does not know whether you are sending an obscene or violent video, but it just merely travels as merely a binary number. So this electrical energy in the form of binary number, when it reaches a computer, it will be translated by the computer into a content that is understandable by human. So the computer is doing the job of translating all these binary numbers. So bila masuk dekat our computer, then only we understand what these binary digits talk about. So the point here is that transmission of an illegal content can be stopped only when it reached a computer or a server through filtering software or maybe using a network level blocking, and it will remain available in the TCP/IP networks worldwide. So meaning katalah macam somebody send some child pornography images, so it will be sent, and then it's there in the internet. Only you of course you require a computer to translate that binary numbers. Only after it comes into a computer, then you know, oh, this is actually something illegal. So this actually, it marks a great challenge for law enforcement, especially when somebody wants to request for takedown or removal of an illegal content online. Some people might say, hey, why not we just delete this whole thing while it's there in the cloud or in the servers and whatnot. So the thing is, it's the numbers of all these contents are, we don't know how much, how many it is, as the number of websites are growing day by day. So in order to screen everything at the main, or at the the TCP/IP level, is basically, we cannot do this, because as the data travels across the internet, it is only identified as binary numbers. So the thing is, when governments around the world, they want to increase the speed of internet, as they come from, the bandwidth is increasing and so on. So we are doing that in the name of, in the name of technology, in the name of advancement. So faster internet, faster connections to the internet means that you will get information in a much more faster way, and then less hassle. Which is why many countries, they want to upgrade their internet connection as much as possible. But the thing is that as speed increases, even for Malaysia, we are gradually increasing our internet speed. The thing is that the computers won't know whether content is illegal or not unless it comes into your computer or a server. Then only it knows. But again, there are issues whereby if you put too much filter or too much blocks, it will also affect the speed. Macam ni lah, macam teh tarik kan, cakap pasal teh tarik pagi ni kan, jangan lupa breakfast teh tarik, you kan macam kita ada uncang tu kan, lepas tu kita macam apa tu, tak, sekarang ni orang buat teh dah ada benda yang tu kan, so orang dah tak tapis dah. Tapi those who prefer teh tarik in the original form, so you have to like tapis kan dia punya teh, the tea leaf kan. So all the serdak tu semua can be filtered. So the more you filter, dia punya the speed of things falling down will slow down as well. So the same thing, the more blocking that you're doing on the network, it will somehow affect the speed of the network. So this becomes a challenge, especially when we want to ensure the network is free from any illegal content. So whether we can do this for the next 20 years or 10 years or 20 years, I'm not sure. But these are I'm just showing you how the network functions, and as far as content is concerned, when it travels to and from computers, in the middle of the destination, in the middle of the way, it won't know whether this thing is illegal content ke, child pornography ke, violent content. It won't know any of that unless it reaches the destination computer. So dah sampai dekat komputer tu, baru tahu, oh, this thing ni apa, itu apa kan. So that's the challenge lah. So when we have all this, the ecosystem of the internet is being built up by through the works of many people, many governments, many private agencies, government agencies, including universities and so on. So the internet is being created. For example, macam naming and addressing of websites is being taken care of a certain agency known as ICANN. So that one not to worry so much. Maknanya when we how do we get the www.google.com to who gives you the name? There is a certain agency that do the registration of web domains, they call it, or the name of the website. So these people administer the naming of the websites, and then there's also people like developing standards, usually the engineers or the internet people. And then as far as law people are concerned, the legal people will be concerned about developing global policy, national policy or national law about how the internet should be regulated, and then education, and so on and so forth. So all this, it creates a really unique ecosystem of what we call as macam internet ni lah. This is like I'm just showing you this picture. Internet might look like this, whereby everybody is there. Can you see the picture? Nampak tak kecil? You can see Google is there. You can see Netflix is there. Mario is there, and then Visa, Mastercard, YouTube. So many people are there on the digital world, and there are arrows. You can see arrows from countries. There are list of countries on the top left. All these countries, they implement. So originally, the digital world is just there with people coming in, doing what they want to do, like YouTube. YouTube, for example, they came in and then they offer this, video, content and whatnot. And then, okay, all these neutral parties, suddenly we have the regulators from the government imposing regulation, imposing policies onto the digital sphere. And then we also have, on the international scale, United Nations like the International Telecommunication Union, ITU, also trying to play a role in coordinating all of these complicated relationships. And then ada lagi OECD and so on and so forth. So many people introducing protocols. Internet service providers, you can see on the bottom right over there, they are basically they connect us. They become the gateway that connects us with this digital world. Without the ISP, you cannot enter the digital world. Sebelah kiri tu apa? Sebelah kiri tu ini macam developers lah, like Microsoft. So you can see there are many groups of people, groups of services that does so many different things, and there are many conflicting interests around the digital world. So then I ask again, how is regulation? How can effective regulation be implemented on the digital world? Because this is, can you see any boundaries as far as geographic is concerned? The digital world exists macam ni je. Everybody is here. So many, tu ada Mario and so on. There's Spotify somewhere in the middle there, Facebook. There are no physical boundaries, as unlike the real world. We know our physical boundaries. Okay, Malaysia, dia punya boundary, the geographical boundary is like this, and then as you reach a certain place too, you will go to Thailand and then Singapore. Tapi in the digital world, it doesn't exist like that. So everybody is trying to control something. Do you see something like bricks of wall on the middle, on the right side of the picture, ada macam satu apa tu dinding panjang kan. It's actually the Great Firewall of China. China is known for this, for having this great firewall to prevent their netizens from accessing the regular internet. So they have their own intranet that they put up this great firewall to monitor everything that the citizens do. So they don't. It was said that they don't have Google. They have their own version of search engine which is monitored by the government. So all these are the ecosystem, and from here we will see the next issue that we will see is that who are the people behind the digital veil? Who are the people behind the digital veil? We will see a bit more closer to the Malaysian setting. Yeah. As far as Malaysia is concerned, who administers, who regulates the digital sphere that we have here in Malaysia? So we will see who are the people behind the digital veil. The first statute that you will come across here for this lecture is the Communication and Multimedia Act. Communication and Multimedia Act is, I call it as CMA 1998. Yeah, CMA. So this it provides this piece of legislation. The purpose of the legislation is basically to coordinate. It coordinates the relationship between all the communication and multimedia industries in Malaysia. So it sets up this industry, communication and multimedia industry. When I say this industry is, it includes internet services, television, telephony, anything that comes under the purview of communication and multimedia. So Astro, apa lagi, Unify, semua ni is under the communication and multimedia industry. So it is an act designed to regulate this industry and any matters that is connected therein. So Section 95, if you look at Section 95, it provides that there is this forum known as Communication and Multimedia Content Forum. They basically they are being entrusted to design this industry code, yeah, on any matters covered by the CMA, and basically through series of consultations, this content forum CMCF has developed what is known as content code, yeah, which is an industry code that binds the internet industry in Malaysia, and this was created to comply with Section 95 lah. So the content code basically serves as a guideline and procedure for good practice and standards of content, which was disseminated to the audience by the service provider in the communications and multimedia industry in Malaysia. Yeah. So let's look at this provision. Okay. So what I'm trying to tell you here is that because now we want to find out who are the people behind the digital veil. If company law, you talk about corporate veil, and who are the people behind the corporate veil. So people behind the digital veil who takes charge of managing what we see on the internet. Yeah. So this is the startup, or the foundation is actually the CMA is the foundation, the Communication and Multimedia Act. It provides the principles, whatever legal requirements that is required for the industry to comply, so that whatever they do will be in accordance to the standard that has been set by the regulator. And one of the standard setting regulator is this Communication and Multimedia Content Forum. Tapi remember, we will dig further on this. I also recommend you to read my book. I think somewhere dekat tengah-tengah tu, in order for you to understand the function of this forum. So it designs this code where through the creation of the code, it acts as a guideline to supplement the CMA lah. Tapi the status of the code and all that nanti itu we will come to that soon. Okay, so section 95, the industry forum known as CMCF, they have created this industry code, which was meant to be voluntary in nature, meaning maknanya industri ni they are supposed to follow the code voluntarily, and this has been created lah, and now the code is known as content code. So or in Malay is called as code kandungan. So it acts as a guideline, a soft law, but at the same time the main law is actually the CMA, the CMA, and then being supplemented by content code. So the two of them work together lah. Tapi of course the act is CMA is it has statutory force as opposed to the code. The code is just a guideline for the industry to follow. Okay, so this talks about registration. Section 95 clause 4, 5, 6 and 7 talks about registration. Okay, generally if you are a service provider and then you want to operate an internet business in Malaysia, you have to register, get a license, to operate. And once you register, usually the membership for this content code will become compulsory for you to sign up. So dia kadang dia cakap je benda tu voluntary, tapi if you want to operate an internet service in Malaysia, you have to sign up and then you have to comply with the principles of the code. So in a way, the code, although appears to be voluntary, but the enforcement of the good principles too, they make it compulsory, so that industry must follow all the principles that has been set out under the code lah. We'll see. I think in the Google Classroom, you can download the content code. You can browse what does it look like and so on. Coming to this point, in the content code, it mentions several classes of persons or organizations that are bound by its rules, and you can classify these into two: content providers, or we call it as content creators, and then the second one is application providers. So under content code ni yang spell out who are the people behind the digital veil: content provider and application provider. So okay, I'm referring to content code now. If you look at the definition in 5.1 here, okay, application service provider means a person who provides application service, which they provide services like voice services. Voice services ni apa? Macam phone lah, phone, IP phone, anything that data services, content-based services, electronic commerce, and other transmission services. Okay, so it also includes application service like this one: public switch telephone network telephony, public cellular telephony services, public IP internet protocol telephony, public payphone service. So would TMNet be covered under this definition? What do you think? Covered tak?
Covered.
Why?
Because they're public internet protocol telephony.
And then dia pun ada buat public cellular telephony service. Dia pun ada buat delivery of voice and data communication kan. So the definition is, thank you for the answer. the definition is broad enough to cover ISPs like Unify or Telecom, or even Celcom is doing this, kan? And then content means, the definition of content is provided here as well. It is any sound, text, picture, blah blah blah. And then content application service provider means a person who provides a content application service. Example is like direct to home subscription broadcasting, DTH, whether by satellite or cable. This is like Astro lah, like Unify TV, terrestrial free to air TV and radio. Ini macam radio lah, the internet radio that we listen to, and then internet webcasting, streaming videos, meaning the people who do this streaming videos, they are actually they form part of this definition. And those are application service provider. What about content provider? Content provider recognize this as a category of in services. So under content code, it recognizes there's a breakdown of four. Maknanya content provider ni, it has four groups of service provider. The first group is known as IASP. You can check in the content code tu, paragraph 12. Actually kalau tak salah sebelah ni kot, 5 point, nanti you can download the content code and see. Tapi the first group under content provider is IASP. The content code called it or coined it as IASP, but it's actually the same thing with ISP. It provides access to the internet. So one internet access service provider, they provide the user with internet access. Second group is content aggregator. Content aggregator, they aggregates and or they purchase content. Say content aggregators, they can provide online content of their own. At the same time, they can provide a third-party content on their website. So this can, I think many websites, macam the portals, the news portal, which is maintained by macam tu lah, macam ohbulan.com lah, apa lagi yang the websites that likes to do viral things. So sometimes they publish their own content, but they also publish a third-party content on their website. So this can also be advertisements, including advertisements. So they aggregate content of other people, and they do this on their website. So they macam they become this second group of service provider or content provider under this category. The third group is internet content hosting provider, ICH, internet content hosting provider. So what they do is that they are persons who in their capacity, they just merely provide access to the content which is not created or aggregated by them, but it is just hosted on the facility. So selalunya benda ni macam hosting provider lah. The hosting provider examples are like exabytes.com. So dia katalah macam you want to have your own website to promote your tudung business, or maybe you want to promote your lamb shank business. You want to have a website. So you pun macam mana nak ada website kan? You have to get somebody which is known as a hosting provider lah. So they provide the domain for you, the website for you, so that you can on certain fee you have to pay maybe some fees. Some hosting provider provide for free, for example like yang macam WordPress kan, they provide for free. But those who provide for unlimited kind of hosting, you have to pay a certain amount of money, and then meaning that they just provide you the domain, the apa tu dia punya tools lah. Okay, and then it's up to you to design whatever way you like it, and after you have done all that, you can publish, and your content is online. So this hosting provider, they don't provide content for you. They don't even aggregate your content. They don't dia tak share your content ke, dia tak promote your content, but they just provide the platform to enable you to come into the digital world. So this is known as content hosting provider. And finally, number 4, it's a link provider. The link provider is the fourth group who provides links to the other sites, but they don't create any content of their own. So we can, I think banyak lah this link provider ni, banyak kita boleh jumpa lah kan. Ada some websites, they just provide links, nothing more. It's just the links. And if you click the link, it will lead you to another website. So let's see an example. Part 8 of Content Code has provided the following example. Okay, remember, the first group, second group, third group, fourth group, not necessarily these people are different people. Sometimes all 4 can be the same people. So meaning, for example, a content aggregator can be a content host at the same time, and can also be a link provider at the same time. So depend lah. Maknanya a content aggregator can also be a link provider as well. ISP, for example, ISP can also be a content provider as well as a link provider. Macam if you look at Unify website, they are having all sorts of Unify TV and so on. They are creating content of their own. So they are not, apart from playing the role of giving access, they also create content and they aggregate content. So maknanya yang 4 group ni kadang-kadang bukan sekadar ni ISP can have also expanded to do business like application service provider. So they can play more than one role. And the law does not restrict this lah. Of course, the law does not restrict this. So it is okay lah. Okay, let's see an example. X is a X. Ini situation based lah. X, who is based in Kuala Lumpur, provides an online lifestyle magazine which can be accessed by anyone from any part of the world online lah. X's portal is hosted on WISE servers. Okay, so X, dia punya portal dia dekat maknanya is parked in WISE server. WISE servers are located in Penang. So tadi, okay, KL, Penang. X provide his own content and third-party content. In his arrangement with the third-party content providers, he does not have the right to edit the content. Maybe something like advertisement. So dia just keluar je, automatic terus keluar. Most third-party content is pushed onto his site automatically without X having the opportunity to view the content beforehand. So in this context, X is a subscriber of Zack's internet access services. So in this instance, X is both a content provider and content aggregator. Y is internet content host, because Y provides the server hosting of Y server, and Zack is an IASP. So macam ni lah illustration dia. Any question? Faham tak? Boleh follow tak? Can you follow me?
Kind of, sir. But still have to like process it.
Sorry ni? Again?
No, mana kena baca sekali lagi lah.
Tak apa. I have no problem explaining this again. Simplify. So,
Doctor,
I say yes. Yes.
How does a third party can access why hosting platform? I mean, how the third party can access even without the consent of X, in Y servers.
Okay. This is basically because of an agreement made between them lah. So X ni macam X ni saya ni ada, I have a website, and then I allow somebody else, a third party, to usually to do an advertisement on my website. Kenapa nak kena buat macam tu? Because advertisements basically generates income. Yeah, it generates income. So in a way, many platforms do this lah. Facebook is one of the most common model lah. Everywhere you see, there's a lot of advertisements. So in their agreement, usually they have this arrangement whereby, okay, the content will be totally managed by this third party. So X does not need to worry about checking this content ke apa ke lah. So maknanya in their agreement they agree, okay, it's just a rental of this digital space. So it's being pushed, any content is pushed onto the site automatically. Every day the content is refreshed. And X does not have to worry about checking ke apa ke, nak kena edit ke apa, no. So selalunya advertisements lah, these are common example lah, advertisement is being done automatically. Sometimes the website owner dia tak check pun lah, they don't even have the opportunity to check. Sometimes the content refreshes every hour, for example, kan. So this is part of the, I mean, part of the practice lah, the practice in the website punya business ni lah. So it's possible, macam the question just now, it's possible to be done this way, and they usually have an agreement to bind the relationship between them. So if any illegal content is being pushed onto the X's website, X can perhaps cite this agreement to say that the liability should be borne by the person who promotes the content lah, for example, kan. So dia ada agreement lah macam tu kan. Okay tak? Okay. Tak apa, still blurry tapi tak apa. We will try to get this. So here the relationship or the people behind the digital veil ni, you have to understand there are content providers, there are content aggregators, and then another category is application service provider. Application service provider, usually those who use network to connect people. Examples are like usually the major service provider lah, macam Astro semua tu, they are the application service provider. But at the same time, they can also be a content provider. This is one example lah. Okay, ada lagi tak? Okay, all the above providers are required to comply with the content code. Yeah, and in the event they fail to comply, they will have to be responsible lah. The content code grants them with the right to deny internet access for ISP or to remove prohibited content for ICH and content aggregator in accordance with notice and take down procedure. It's okay, there's a specific topic on this to explain further. On application provider, tadi itu content, this one is application provider. These are services like public switch telephone network, yeah, the one that we discussed just now lah, telephony services, internet protocol telephony. Why do these things come into the picture of our discussion? This is because they are basically using the similar network. Dia sebenarnya guna network yang sama through this TCP/IP network. Yeah, so a lot of services is being offered, and one of them is this application provider. Examples are like direct to home subscription broadcasting, pakai cable ke, pakai satellite, and so on. Okay. And for your information, the content code applies to all these. It binds all these service providers lah. Yeah. Okay, so it can be safely argued that the entire ICT industry in Malaysia has been regulated or safely covered by both content code and the CMA. Of course, the CMA, all the service providers must comply because it is part of the Malaysian law. But code is a guideline, but they have made it as part of the practice. They made it compulsory for the service provider to follow. So dia macam complement the CMA, and maknanya any service provider in Malaysia must comply with the provisions of the code. Okay, so coming back, this one is the end of the topic already. Coming back to, sebab saya tahu ramai yang confused yang ni kan yang ni. Okay, so coming back to, I just repeat pusing sikit, the people behind the digital veil. Section 95 is the one that establishes it establishes the asbabun nuzul, we call it lah kan, the asbabun nuzul. It is because of this provision that sets up the creation of the content code. And then when the code is created from the provision of Section 95, and then it creates all these guideline, standard setting, good practices for the industry to follow. From there, we zoom in a little bit closer to find out who are the people behind the digital veil. Content code says there are two main categories of people, of the service providers that provides these internet services. One category, they provide content, which we call as content providers. Second category is the application providers, usually much more focused on network kind of thing lah kan, macam providing broadcasting service. Macam ni Astro kan, Astro it provides broadcasting service. It use satellite connection or cable connection. Same thing with internet. Actually, internet has been sent or being the signal to is not merely being transferred through cables, but also satellite connection. So ada banyak Wi-Fi connection semua. There are many ways to transmit internet signals around the world. So these are the two main category. Under the two main category, with a content provider, you can find four sub category of services, and in which these four, not necessarily they are different people at one time. Sometimes content aggregators are also doing the job of link provider. And if let's say a company decides to katalah this company ABC, they want to become a new ISP in Malaysia, but at the same time they want to have another business, which is a hosting business, content hosting business. They can do that, and then they just register lah sebagai ICH, and they can become an ICH at the same time. So maknanya yang content provider ni, it can be up to these four categories, and for the application provider, they are those people who provide network services, or application services lah. So selalunya corporate companies, they provide electronic commerce, in the not just phone kind of thing, but also data services, transmission. So banyak lah under application service ni, provider can be many things lah So, but generally, if you talk about the ICT industry in Malaysia, everything is covered under these two links, and they are basically the backbone of the internet, how the internet works in Malaysia. Okay, any question? Just to clarify things.
think it's okay, sir.
Okay.
Inshallah.
So if we take example like this, X has his own website. The website basically talks about lifestyle magazine. So it's an online lifestyle magazine. And then in order for X to start the website needs to be hosted by somebody, isn't it? That somebody is called ICH, Internet Content Hosting Provider. So the hosting provider then of course will connect to the ISP as well lah. So sebenarnya macam X pun, X kalau nak guna internet dia pun kena subscribe to ISP. Tapi to become a content provider, X has to register with this content host, which is Y. In this case is Y. Okay, so maybe he needs to pay a certain fee, and then Y will provide a digital space for X to maintain his online lifestyle magazine website. And then, okay, that is as far as establishing the site is concerned. Once he has the site on the website, in order to manage his website, maybe he can it is not selalunya kalau orang buat website depend lah. Some people they don't want any third party to come and intermeddle with whatever that appears on the page. But some other people might want to have advertisements, might want to have news auto edit or auto synchronize to the right side of their page. Kan kadang-kadang orang suka buat macam tu kan, macam as you browse through Facebook, kejap aku nak tunjuk Facebook aku, tapi tak mana dia kadang-kadang benda macam ni we have to show some example baru tengok, baru nampak lah dia. Tak boleh lah. Nampak tak? Nampak this page? Can you see the page?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and page. Okay, as you scroll, the middle part is perhaps this is your own the automated posting lah. On the right side, there is this sponsored tab, isn't it? Ini kan? These are not controlled by these are usually automated. It is being feeded over that side of the page automatically by marketing people lah. And then as you scroll, suddenly pop, this sponsored content comes out. So an interactive site like this, they would prefer to have a setting like this. So in order to manage the relationship between the main owner of the website and the third party who provides this third party content, this is talking about London School of Economic program kan. So they have an agreement lah between them on how to manage the feed of this content. So in a way, the owner of Facebook, for example, they are the main content provider. But at the same time, a third party can also feed content on their page. So it becomes interactive in that way, and this thing is being done or synchronized. Sometimes every minute it is being automated kan. So this is one of the feature that makes web page much more interactive. Tiba-tiba scroll ada keluar gambar makanan. Tapi tak apa. It also depends on what you click. We will explore on these features further soon. And these are of course Facebook. They have this platform. They must be, in order to run this platform, they must register themselves with a certain internet content host. So the host is situated somewhere in the real world. Dia lah yang jadi macam pendaftar website. So they are not the ISP. Remember, they are not ISP, and they register your website so that you can have this website lah, kan? Tu keluar gambar burger semua ni kan. So IASP, which is similar to ISP, they are the one who connect us all with the internet. Sama lah, regardless of the content provider or the application provider, tapi everyone needs ISP in order to connect to the internet. Tapi those who want to become content provider, they want to have a website of their own, they must go through ICH to have a platform, and then to develop the platform for everyone else to see. So that is the difference lah. Tapi there is no harm for this one company to engage into a different business and become a content provider at the same time. There's nothing to stop them lah. Okay, I guess that's all for today. Maybe I can take one last question kalau ada. Tak ada. So I hope for the next topic, we will continue with the next topic is on internet governance. So we have understood the history of the internet just now, and then we have also understood the categories of service providers that becomes the people behind the digital veil. So the next topic that we will see is that how to manage all this relationship in a sort of like a regulatory framework. How does government manage all this? What would be the approach to regulate the internet? Some countries prefer it to be strict. Some countries prefer not to regulate in a delicate way, or a self-regulatory way, or a collaborative regulation. So countries, it depends on each country's preference on how they wish to regulate the internet. So macam Malaysia, for example, based on content code and CMA, we prefer to use self-regulation, which has also been coined as self-discipline. How effective it is has been open to debate. So the next topic will explore this on what are the ways to regulate the internet. And there are, of course, challenges and issues in every framework that has been developed. Okay, with that, I think let's close with Tasbih Kafarah and Suratul As. Thank you. Assalamualaikum. See you next coming Wednesday.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.